fuck you, I'm not doing this.
But you must! The Resident Evil movies are a true test of an internet critic's might!
Okay, I think you're making this just a wee bit more grand than it needs to be, Master Ninja.
Look, you just need to look deep down and ask yourself one question. What would Bruce Campbell do?
Run like cheap mascara?
Here's a better example. What would Ash Williams from the Evil Dead movies do?
Right. Change card! Yo, she bitch. Let's do this.
Just a little faster.
Really? Was the world really clamoring for another Resident Evil movie?
I mean, the first one was bad. I mean, one of the worst movies I reviewed thus far behind Revenge of the Fallen, Eclipse, and New Moon.
And yet, somehow, that pile of dreck earned enough money at the box office to warrant a sequel. Oh, given all the sequel bait we got at the end of the last movie, I guess it wasn't for lack of trying. Ooh, speaking of which, before I tear Apocalypse a new asshole, I have to make a little amendment to the Resident Evil drinking game.
Since Expendable Dumbass number 8 is no longer involved in this story, we shall now take one shot every time the movie resorts to horror movie logic, such as splitting up, entering a room unarmed, or staying behind with obvious infectees.
So, with all that out of the way, ready to booze, or for those of you playing the straight edge version, your non-alcoholic drink of choice, we're about to go head first into this festering pile of zombie shit. This is Resident Evil Apocalypse.
The movie opens with Alice giving the audience an exposition dump explaining the events of the first movie.
Okay, seriously? Anybody going into this movie has probably already seen its predecessor, so pointing out the Cliff Notes summary of that so-called plot is not only unnecessary padding, but pretty damn pretentious if you ask me.
Anyways, we then cut to the science police from the last movie deciding to enter the Hive, you know, the area that as of the last movie was completely overrun with zombies, to investigate. Oh yeah. Did I mention the dumbasses are completely unarmed?
Yeah, I'm sure this couldn't possibly end badly.
Stupid! You're so stupid!
Umbrella then decides to take further action by extracting former scientists from Raccoon City to further establish what incompetent assholes they are. Fast forward a mere 13 hours later, where we're introduced to Jill Valentine, Master of Unlocking All Doors, played by...
You!
She then proceeds to show how badass she is by entering a police precinct full of zombies and knocking them off one by one, since the rest of the cops are apparently too incompetent to fire their goddamned weapons! So after that scene that will later prove completely worthless, we cut to the end of the last movie.
Seriously, it's the exact same scene with maybe 2 new establishing shots. Talk about lazy editing!
Fast forward through some more pointless scenes introducing Carlos Oliveira, played by Oded Fair, and we cut to Raven's Gate Bridge, where some dick from Umbrella decides to cut off the evacuation because he saw maybe 1 or 2 infectees at the gate, leading an already anxious crowd to erupt into mass panic! To make matters worse, he orders his men to open fire on the crowd, and then tells one of the scientists, Dr. Ashford, played by Jared Harris, that he's out of luck when his daughter is also locked in the city. We then cut to Alice breaking into an army surplus store to get change and arm herself to the teeth, when we get a flashback that shows she was injected with the T-virus. And then we transition to Jill Valentine, Master of Unlocking All Doors, and some more expendable dumbasses from the bridge.
One of whom has already been bitten.
As they enter a nearby church where we get jump scare after jump scare till some guy who was hiding in the church as well tries to leave, only to find...
Sorry. Proceed.
So the abysmal CGI kills off that guy, and Jill and the red shirts soon discover there are two more closing in on them, when suddenly... Fast forward through some more filler with Carlos and his band of red shirts, and Alice is about to subject us to another exposition dump when she suddenly notices that the other guy has been infected, and goes to do the smart thing, but is stopped by Jill Valentine, master of unlocking all doors. They're then forced to retreat after being attacked by another group of zombies.
But not before Alice is able to take out about a half dozen by herself. Bare friggin' handed.
Back at the Umbrella Camp, it's revealed that the T-virus infection has reached dangerous levels in the city, so the douchebag decides to release Nemesis, who we then cut to as he kills a team of Raccoon City police officers, before cutting right back to our heroes as Dr. Ashford contacts them asking that they rescue his daughter in exchange for a way out of the city, as he reveals through another exposition dump that because of the infection level, Umbrella has decided to nuke the whole city. Unfortunately, the team then has a run-in of their own with Nemesis, who quickly takes out the infected guy, causing everyone but Alice to retreat as she tries to take him on head-to-head, before retreating herself. Meanwhile, Carlos and his remaining meat shield are also called by Dr. Ashfield, while Jill Valentine, master of unlocking all doors, and Reporter Lady pick up a pimp before arriving at Angela Ashford's school, where Jill Valentine, master of unlocking all doors, decides to have the team split up. Long story short, Reporter Lady gets killed by some infected kids, while Jill Valentine, master of unlocking all doors, finds Ashford's daughter, only for them to instantly be cornered by zombie dogs, none of whom Jill Valentine, master of unlocking all doors, is able to hit.
Lady, you took out an entire precinct full of zombies earlier. Okay, it's not that hard. Take a second to breathe, and kill those damn dogs!
Luckily, Carlos's meat shield arrives in time to take out the dog as well as every zombie in the room, before delivering one of the movie's only genuinely awesome one-liners.
Stay.
Unfortunately, he's then attacked by another dog, and after telling Jill Valentine, master of unlocking all doors, and Angela to retreat, is unceremoniously killed off. Jill and Angela escape into the cafeteria where they're cornered by the remaining zombie dogs. Luckily, Alice is able to save them by essentially nuking the fridge. And it's then revealed that not only are Alice and Angela infected with the T-virus, but Angela is carrying the cure.
Everybody got that?
They're then joined by Carlos and the pimp as Ashford calls and tells them they have 47 minutes to get to the chopper, which is located at Raccoon City Hall, which looks an awful lot like Toronto City Hall.
Okay, yes. The movie was actually filmed here in Toronto.
Besides the obvious fact that they used Toronto City Hall for the climax, you can also see famous Toronto landmarks like the CN Tower in some shots, and Jill, Alice, and the red shirts actually hide inside a decommissioned TTC streetcar.
So yeah, this movie did have a bit of a personal effect on me, being filmed about an hour away from where I lived at the time.
After Carlos is given the antivirus, because he was apparently infected in an earlier scene, Alice records a vlog with the exact same exposition dump from the beginning of the movie!
My name is Alice. I work for the Umbrella Corporation, the largest and most powerful commercial entity in the world.
And we're given an okay sequence of the team sneaking past security. But of course, then there's Alice. After that admittedly awesome stunt, she quickly takes out the guards with a tiny knife that couldn't possibly be able to penetrate armor that thick. But that's just me nitpicking, as this is a pretty damn decent action sequence. We also get another funny one-liner from Carlos.
You missed one.
So they enter the chopper and are about to take off when Alice suddenly has a flashback and realizes Nemesis is coming, only to find out that this was all an elaborate trap set up by the douchebag in order to have Alice and Nemesis duke it out Mortal Kombat style to see who's better.
What the man?
And then he decides to kill Dr. Ashford for no reason.
He's an asshole.
So the final battle begins and goes about how you'd expect, with Alice essentially dominating Nemesis, and then kicking him into an exposed spike before revealing that Nemesis is actually expendable dumbass number 9 after being mutated by the virus.
What a twist!
After Alice refuses to kill him, the douchebag gives another exposition dump about how the T-virus bonded with her DNA, or some pseudo-twin Hitler science like that, and then orders Nemesis to kill her.
And then everything goes to plaid.
Nemesis decides to kill the Umbrella Guards instead, and the real final battle begins.
Okay, I gotta admit, I kinda like this sequence. If only for the fact that it shows someone besides Alice taking part in the badass fight scene. Okay, granted it's mostly limited to Alice and Nemesis, but given the more Alice-centric fight scenes we'll get in later installments, or hell, even in the last installment, I'll take what I can get.
Unfortunately, the zombies storm City Hall, and with Nemesis having been killed, as well as the nuke closing in, our heroes make a break for the chopper and kick out the douchebag, leaving him to die as the nuke blows up the city.
Of course, completely forgetting the fact that the chopper's still working perfectly despite the EMP that sucker must have given off.
Unfortunately, the shockwaves do somehow loosen a pipe inside the helicopter that flies towards Angela, until Alice jumps in the way to save her, getting impaled in the process.
And then the movie loses all sense again.
Best guess, the helicopter crashes and a half-dead Alice is the only one found in the wreckage by an Umbrella salvage team. Long story short, they take her to an undisclosed location, heal her with the power of gratuitous nudity, And then we get a line for the trailer.
My name is Alice. And I remember everything.
She then proceeds to beat the ever-loving crap out of the scientist and tries to escape with some impossible feats. Unfortunately, she's then cornered by Umbrella's security troops. Luckily, she's saved by Carlos, Jill, and the pimp, none of whom are really in disguise, by the way, who somehow convince the troops to let them take her away. Unfortunately, one of the scientists wakes up and activates something called Program Alice, which briefly flashes the Umbrella logo in her eyes.
And what does this super secret program do?
Nothing! Absolutely nothing!
Yeah. It turns out that the next movie takes place sometime after the events of this one, and apparently whatever was supposed to happen with Project Alice doesn't, for reasons that are never really explained. Yep, right, that's it, yep. This movie blows.
While the action is much improved and the lighter emphasis on exposition to tell the story is welcomed, the movie is still bogged down by Anderson's writing. Characters that were initially established as badasses, like Carlos Oliveira and Jill Valentine, Master of Unlocking All Doors, quickly become afterthoughts after their initial scenes, just so Jovovich can be pushed as front and center as possible.
Don't even get me started about the acting.
Aside from a few good one-liners, the only person that seemed to give any sense of a solid performance was probably Jared Harris as Dr. Ashford, with everyone else either phoning it in or not being important enough to the plot for us to even give enough of a shit. Even the soundtrack seemed to be lacking here, once again relying on cliché action movie artists like Slipknot, Rammstein, and Rob Zombie. To make matters worse, not only did Time magazine mark this as one of the top 10 worst video game movies of all time, but this movie also joins its predecessor on the late Roger Ebert's most hated films list.
And unfortunately, given the lousy excuse for a plot this movie has, I can see why. Unfortunately, we're not out of the woods yet. Tune in next time when we cap off the first half of this god-awful excuse of a franchise with Resident Evil Extinction.